Ever thought about this number on right here, this denominator number here, that's on the bottom right hand corner of your screen? What if I told you that number was not just some completely arbitrary number, and it could actually tell you something about what rare ghosts or ghosts you're gonna face? Hello and welcome to my video. In this video, I'm gonna kind of like show you kind of like how like the rare ghost number, like these rare ghost numbers work, and like how you can use them to potentially predict what it's gonna be when you get on that respective rare ghost floor. So here is kind of like a document I have, a rare ghost groups here. So the idea here is that you have a total of 19 rare ghosts, and they're split into like these 6 groups here. Now, the higher they are in the group, the fewer of them you're going to have, given like several like 3 factors here. These factors are going to be essentially your player count, what floor number you're on, and of course, which ghosts you have, of course. That part is especially where the groups really comes into play. Now, a very important thing to mention with co-op, with playing players, do not factor in any co-ops. People can have like a thing where it shows that another Luigi. Here I have like a little bit of a table showing what, basically screenshots of what the rare ghosts in game look like here. And of course here's also like that enlarged table, that table Armor 64 made, but like enlarged. So that helps here. Of course, links to all this will be in the description. Now, a very important thing for co-op is that if you notice here, you'll see how there's these Luigis here, the matching color. When you're doing your player count for this, you want to make sure you do not factor them in. That is very important, as if you do, this will throw off your numbers. A similar thing happens if someone leaves during the floor. Like, even if they like leave, as soon as they load in and then they immediately leave, you still would treat it as if they're still there. So here we have all the rare ghosts here. Here we have all the groups here. Now this right here, slot order, is essentially the order they appear in the gallery. So speed group right here is going to be the furthest to the left, while warp slinker is furthest to the right. The smaller the number, the closer to the left, essentially. They're going to be all in numerical order there in the gallery. Now, with that in mind, we can kind of start over here and look at these here. So, keep in mind 4 players here, referencing these 4 players. So, the amount of each rare ghost given the floor and the player count, that is fixed. That is not RNG at all. However, for right now, we'll just talk specifically 4 players. So, if we were to get any of these 5 here, you would have 4 of them total. It'll show 0 out of 4. It would show 0 out of 4 on the bottom right hand corner when you load up that rare ghost floor. If it's either region hammers or bomb hammers, it would show 5. If it shows any of these 7 here, as well as bomb oozers, I guess total 8, it would show 6. If it's any of these 3, so region goop, bomb goop, or speed oozer, it would be 7, and then speed goop, and then speed oozer, sorry, not speed goop, speed oozer, 7, and speed goop would be 9. So for instance, if I look at 4 here, speed goop's immediately eliminated because that would be 9. It would also work vice versa. If I see 9, I know it can't be any of these. It has to be speed goops because their amount is like distinct, which really helps in telling what they are. So you can basically always tell if you get speed gooped or not. Yeah, as long as you know what all the numbers and stuff. As long as you know all that, you can tell. You know, for instance, we'll just say hypothetically we get speed oozers. Okay. Now we have speed oozers here. We have those selected. Okay, so we'll just say hypothetically we just get them here. Okay, great. Now we're on floor 10. Now if we imagine floor 10 here. Now what's very important to remember and to note now is that you're not just matching a number. Floor 5, you're matching a number. You're just matching a single number. Floor 10, you're matching a sum. So here's, hopefully this will make the whole concept of the amount corresponding to the rows more clear. So here, if you look here, we just put a quantity here. So remember, the ghost count here is going to be that number that's on the bottom right hand corner. Keep in mind this is for 4 players specifically. And remember what I said about the co-ops. So the ghost count is going to be, so you'll see a number that's 0 out of some number. That denominator is the ghost count. So if, for instance, if we just say this is, I guess, 6, alright? So you look at this, I go, okay, can it be any of these 5? Because remember, same group, they're going to have the same number of each. That's part of the grouping. That's why they're grouped the way they are, is because the number of each of them will be the same. So you could even swap 2 members of the same group, and the numbers won't change. Which is that's why they're organized that way. So if you look here, okay, could this be lethal hammers? Well, hold on, so you got this of 4, meaning this quantity, because it's 4, 5, you want the quantity to match the ghost count. Does it match? No. So that's when we get a total of 6 on the ghost count. We know lethal hammers is not an option. Same will apply to these 4. As well as these. The key things you want to look for the potential, I guess, candidates as well use, is that their number here has to match this here. See if you look, but notice how it's colon after it's 6, and that's the same number as the ghost count here. That right there is what you want to keep in mind. You want to make sure that matches for floor 5. That right there is very important. I have a different example in mind. Okay, but now let's just say, okay, what if it's 7 instead? Okay, well now, it's got to be one of these 3, because these are only 3 that actually have the correct amount here. So we could put this here, and I have an example we're just going to put speed oozers for, so we'll just do that real quick. Now, here, what I'll do here, because this is an example we know the player count is going to be consistent for this example, I will just fill all these now. But I'll kind of show you how to manage this if the player count does shift. Which is important. Okay, so now we go, okay. Don't worry about those right now. Just ignore them. I guess I'll just clear this so they don't do that for right now. Okay. Alright, so now let's say, okay, floor 10. Okay. Total amount will be 8. Okay. Alright. Punch in the 5 speed oozers here. Go, okay. Well, this is a -3. Essentially. Okay, 5 plus what? Equals 8. Well, 5 plus 3 equals 8. Alright, so now you want to have, so now the only so the options with this and with all this information in mind is, okay, which rare ghosts are going to come in that quantity? So in this case, it's going to have to be one of these 5. Lethal hammers, lethal slinkers, lethal oozers, warp slinkers, or diffusing hammers. It has to be one of those 5. And here's the thing. Let's say if it was not any of these 5, then the number would not have been 8. For instance, if it was like speed goobs, this would literally be 11. That would be 5 speed oozers and 6 speed goobs if it were speed goobs. But for that to be the case, the ghost count would have to be 11. And the ghost count, as example demonstrated, is 8. So the sum has to match. So the sum total, so the summed amount from both rare ghosts here have to equal the ghost count. Because there's two different rare ghosts. That right there is very important to keep in mind. So for example, let's just say Warp Slinker. Okay, right. So now it'll be 3 of them, and then, yep, that does work. And then also, because I can with this here, I'll just put this here and build this in here. I guess I'll just, alright. And then I know for this example here, I'll have 8 here again. Just, the amount will oftentimes increase. It doesn't always. And similarly here, oops, gotta put 2 here. Be mindful about that, because if you're not careful, a small mistake like that will cause that to happen. And then we have, no, 8, sorry, 9 is the one I want here, 9. Okay. So with 9 being the ghost count here, okay. Okay, alright, so we have 2 warp plinkers, okay, and then we have the 4 speed users, okay. So now we're thinking, okay. You can look at the sum total here, and what's nice here, okay. So when you see this -3 here, essentially take the positive of it. So I guess instead of -3, you think, okay, we need one that's going to have a quantity of 3. That works. And then, okay, so now we gotta look here. Okay, which ones have that same quantity? And we know we restrict or search to the ones with the correct quantity. So instead of trying, okay, there's 17 other rare ghosts it could be, instead of going like that, we go, okay, we have, I guess, is this here, I guess, that's 2, 3, 4, I guess that's 2, that's 10, sure, but I mean, that's better than 17, I imagine. Alright, so now let's say, imagine hypothetically, if someone were to leave here, right? And like between floor 5 and 10, right? They can even leave during floor 5. The key thing is that the player count change has to happen before the floor starts, is what's very important. You have to keep in mind. So let's just say, okay, you had 4 people on floor 10, on floor 5, but then you have 3 on floor 10. So what do you do then? Okay, well, first thing you know, okay, it's probably ideal is just to put speed users here, because even though it's the wrong the quantity, just so you remember what it was, and then you just put speed users again. Okay, and then you want to put 4. Okay, now you want to look at the new ghost count here. Okay, now let's just say technically the ghost count is 8. Alright, so now again here, look at the quantities. What's gonna work here? It's not any of these 5. I mean, that gives you 6. 6 does not equal 8. It cannot be any of these 9, because that gives you 7. 7 does not equal 8. It cannot be speed groups. 4 plus 5, that gives you 9. 9 does not equal 8. So it's got to either be bomb users, region goobs, or bomb goobs. So it has to be one of those 3. We don't consider speed users here, because even though theoretically that would work, mathematically match up, we already have speed users. You cannot, like, add them to the thing again, so you should never see it here. It doesn't matter if the math works, like, no. Big no. So I guess you could say hypothetically just region goobs. 4 gives you 8. Now, let's just say here, okay. Alright, so we have a total of 8, okay. I know, different rare ghosts, but just to show kind of the example here, but you can see how I'm using this here. Or I guess if you want to even be more specific with, I guess, the warp slinkers again, that would be 2, and the ghost count would be 6 in that case. But that's besides the point. We'll just go back with what I was going with here. Alright, so now let's say okay. And then we'll just say for sake of this that there's no player count after, or at least noteworthy, like no one joined. There's basically 3 of you still, like at the very end of floor 14. Alright. So here we go. Okay. We can put the ones that we have. Now you can, like, a lot of times I do like to organize them by the group, where like the higher group is to the left. But that's not required. Especially when you're first getting the hang of it. I know I probably have made a mistake of trying to be too on that. Really, the main thing is you have to keep in mind is that the order you get the rare ghost doesn't change the quantity. I'll explain that later. So right here, we will put Speed User here. Okay, we know there's 3 of them here. Region Goop. There's also 3 of them. There you go. Okay. But our ghost count is 8 again. Okay. So now we're looking at, okay. Now we're only looking so that we have 2 of each on it. So these 12 just check out. I mean, we just completely just, or I guess 10 because Speed User and Region Goop, but that's besides the point. So we're looking at these 7, so it has to be one of these 7. Now, keep in mind, so we could just say hypothetically Lethal User, and that would give us a 2, and that matches. But you can see how we're restricting it to, okay, so instead of it being a 117, now it's, okay, 1 in 7, which, hey, that's much better odds than 1 in 17. I mean, that's over double the odds in this case. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is that the order you get the rare ghosts, it doesn't matter too much as long as you have the same group, the groups are the same is what really matters. So for instance, I guess if we do something like this here, where we have something like this here, where I just set this real quick here. Alright, so you'll see this here. Now, if you look at specifically, especially floor 15 here, if I say go over here and I can clear all these here. Just put, like, say this here. You'll notice that how we do this again, you'll notice we have all the same groups. We have each member here, and you'll notice here again, on floor 15, we have the same total here. So as long as you have the same groups represented, essentially, amount will be the same. You can even rearrange the order. Because if you really think about it, you're just like for floor 15 here, you're just rearranging the addition. It's like, okay, now it's 4 plus 2 plus 3. Instead of, I just fill this part just for the sake of this here real quick. and put, okay, we'll just here. Now this is 3 plus 4 plus 2. That still gives me 9. So that's also a very common property to be mindful of. And yet a similar thing if I just put like this here. You'll notice this still, like, you'll still see this like in 10F as well. That still gives you 8. And if I go over here and I go, okay, let me just that's still, see? So, yeah. In fact, even if I wanted, I could even say, come over here and just change it like this here, and again, the amount still doesn't change because it's the same group. Now, there are other stuff I can still add, like I know there's a bunch of these other links. So if there is interest, I could make a video with these. Basically, these are kind of like different ways I've either tried to explain it, because I know I have had a bit of issues with explaining in the past. And if you're wondering what these are essentially like the group combinations. You can scroll down, organized by player count. So remember the thing about the co-ops. Very important, remember that. Alright, well, if there are any questions, of course, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll make sure to have links for everything here. Alright, well, hopefully this helps. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for watching.